All right, let's talk to Sheil Kapadia. Sheil, of course, joins us all the time. We love having Sheil on the show. He does wonderful work for The Ringer, and we got to get his opinions on both the Eagles and the Phils. Sheil, good morning, pal.
Yeah, I don't think I could have gotten away with that question during my days on the beat. I don't know that my credential would have worked in the NovaCare complex the next day, but it worked for Mike Florio, so good for him.
Sheil, we haven't done this story in about 5 years, so for the audience that doesn't know it, you got to tell your first question to Pete Carroll story when you're firing stuff at him and he was like, slow down there, bud. Tell people that story.
Yeah, I was used to the Philadelphia media corps, and I moved out to Seattle to cover the Seahawks. And first press conference, I'm thinking, when there's a break in action, you got to yell your question. You got to yell it loud. You got to be forceful. And so I yell a question, and he just stops the press conference, looks at me, and goes, "Why are you yelling at me?" in the middle. And so that was the sign that you can take the guy out of Philadelphia, but you're not going to take Philadelphia out of the guy out.
Why are you yelling at me?
Man.
That's
Great job, Sheil.
Yeah, and we were glad to get you back. You're out there, about 2 years in Seattle?
2 years.
Yeah,
2 years.
Good man. All right, so Sheil, 4 years for AJ here. Will there be a fifth? I say there will not be. What do you think?
I say there will not be. I mean, I understand why there's a segment of the fan base that really does not want to trade A.J. Brown because A.J. Brown's a great player. You don't want to trade great players. You're trying to win a Super Bowl next year. But I do think there's kind of an amnesia given that we're so far away from the end of the season where we just sat through an entire season where it looked to me, I'm not inside A.J. Brown's head, but it looked to me like the guy was miserable, and he was kind of telling you at various times throughout the season that he was miserable. And so unless something really changed, and I don't know what that would be, I don't think A.J. Brown saw them hire Sean Mannion and said, oh, yeah, now everything's changed, and I want to be back with the Eagles. Maybe I'm wrong about that, but I think given that you tried it, you gave it a great try last year, it didn't work out. There's going to be teams out there that want A.J. Brown. I just think there's going to be an alignment between what he wants, the team being able to get the right compensation, and everybody kind of moving on.
Hey,
So is the team better or worse with AJ? I can't figure that out for myself.
It's a conundrum.
Are they better or worse with AJ Brown?
I think they're better with A.J. Brown because even in a season where, like I said, he was miserable, he did lead the team, right, and had 1,000 yards, and he still has those moments, and he's still somebody who, if you're an opposing defense, you say, what's our plan against him? Yeah. But obviously there was a disconnect there where he was not the best version of A.J. Brown, which we've seen in previous seasons.
What are the odds, based on the lay of the land right now, A.J.'s headed for the AFC East?
Yeah, I think if I had to, I think that's a good call. I think the Patriots and Bills would both be teams to look at. I think the Patriots would be the favorite. They've got the 31st overall pick. Is that just a clean trade? Number 31 for A.J. Brown, everyone moves on because I do think Howie Roseman's going to want a first-round pick. I think many teams would give up a second-round pick, and then it comes down to, well, okay, which side kind of budgets there, and what's the marketplace look like? So I think there's a lot of teams that would love A.J. Brown. I mean, the Bills, the Patriots, I'm looking at the Ravens, the Chargers. Like, I could give you at least 8 to 10 teams that I would say, given how weak the free agency market is at wide receiver, that they would say, hey, let's go ahead and let's go trade for A.J. Brown, especially if they're trying to win a Super Bowl this year.
Is A.J. more upset with the offense? As far as you can tell, the Sean Mannion decision.
Offense or quarterback?
Yes.
Yeah, listen, I can't say definitively. I did hear Joe with the caller right before me, and I tend to think that there were issues with the quarterback, but that's just speculation. I can't tell you that for sure. I can just tell you watch the film a lot of times this year, and it was pretty clear that he was not invested in whatever the plan was. So that whether that was coach, OC, quarterback, a combination of all three, he was not kind of into what they were doing this year.
Sheil, I want to play some audio for you of Mike Vrabel from yesterday, and I don't know if you know the rule, but I am wondering, does this represent tampering by the New England Patriots? And I like Vrabel, but listen to Vrabel yesterday, and then let's get your assessment.
I think the relationship with players, and specifically you asked about AJ, has meant a lot. I've watched him grow. I've watched him mature. I'm proud of him. Proud of the the father that he is. I'm proud of the husband, and that has nothing to do with where he plays and where he played. So those are the things that are important. We reach out and text each other during the things that happen good to each other, and sometimes things don't go so well for the people that you're close with, and you text those as well. So it's a two-way street of support and reminders of what got us to where we are here today.
So, Sheil, it really sounded to me and a lot of us like he was about to say texted during the season. And maybe even in the offseason you're not allowed. I don't know. I mean, like if a former Eagles player shines somewhere like Milton Williams, maybe Sirianni's allowed to shoot him a text and say, hey, Milton, great game. I'm proud of you. I don't know the rule. Do you know the rule? Is Vrabel allowed to be texting with A.J. Brown?
I don't know the specific rules. I believe he's allowed to, though. I mean, I don't, I think it would need to constitute some type of thing where you're trying to get the player on your team. But I think he's smart enough the way he framed it, the man he is, the father he is, that there's a personal relationship there where if you have former players or former coaches even, you're allowed to keep those relationships open throughout the course of a season.
Look, I think it's important to note, I really believe Vrabel really, really cares about A.J., and everyone wants the best for A.J. Brown, the person. Let me be very clear about that. I hope it didn't venture into territory it should not have, because that's, that would, as an Eagles fan, that would tick me off.
Well, you've got a head coach in Mike Vrabel who's very well connected with guys all over the league, and that's just an advantage the New England Patriots have now. Just compare the connectedness of their coach with the connectedness of ours.
Well, he's very connected.
It's a major difference, and it will pay dividends for them.
Well, Sirianni's very connected.
Yeah, we talks about. You talked about. You never heard him talk about FaceTime players and this and that.
I'm talking about Mike Vrabel, his relationship with players in the league, with other coaches in the league.
He's been
My
in a
concern
little
with
longer.
Sirianni is
players,
that he doesn't have that relationship with enough coaches, with enough players.
For what it's worth, Sirianni
it holds us back in terms of growing the team, growing our influence, because he's not as well known.
Well, he
as
has
Mike
been
Vrabel.
around. Look, we didn't have to look up his first year, but I think Sirianni's been around at least since 2012 because he was with KC when Andy got there and dumped him.
I mean, Sirianni has been a coach in more organizations than Mike Vrabel has.
In the 90s for the Steelers. He was playing in the aughts for the
Those
Patriots.
players aren't playing anymore.
I get it.
Yeah,
He's just been involved and entrenched in the NFL since the 90s.
Sheil, I've told John before, there's two type of coaches he likes. Those that were badass players and those that he thinks have these minds that give them an advantage. And if you're not one of those two...
And he's both. Mike Vrabel's both of those things.
I love Vrabel, but I think Sirianni's good too. All right, Sheil, free agency, 2 weeks away. If you're Howie, now you don't have the medicals that he's going to have from doctors on Landon and Juergens and Lane. But without those medicals, and I know it's a little unfair to ask you that, but I'll just say, would you trust that you've got him and kind of good, or no, I really got to stock up there?
Well, I don't think.
And by the way, free agency and the draft. I'm combining the two there.
Yeah. I think the draft is where you will see them address offensive line early and maybe often. But the thing is, with those guys, Cam Juergens, Landon Dickerson, Lane Johnson, they're on your roster. Lane Johnson, I'm not worried about. I mean, when he was healthy, he played at a high level, and you can't really just predict is he going to be healthy or is he not going to be healthy. So I put him in a different category where he's going to be one of the better right tackles in the NFL. The other two, you are concerned, but they're under contract and they're under big contracts. So you don't really have a ton of options there where you say we're going to move on from them or we're going to replace them. I think you give them a great chance. You try to build up the depth as much as you can, and if it comes to a scenario where it's no, they're still not healthy, they're not playing at a high level, you have options. But I don't think you do that by signing big price free agents, because that wouldn't make sense. Those guys might end up riding the bench. So I think that the draft is really where you'll see them address the offensive line.
Last year at this time, we were talking an awful lot about the tush push going away forever. Now, doesn't seem like that's an issue, Sheil.
Yeah, so...
What's going to happen with the tush push? Should we even be concerned with it, since it didn't seem like it was working for us by the end of the year?
Yeah, it's funny how it didn't work as well, and they didn't win the Super Bowl, and suddenly it wasn't a dangerous play, I guess, across the NFL. That was my read on it. So, yeah, it sounds like the tush push will be legal. Now, will they continue to run it? You have a new coordinator. You have a new scheme. Do they have other options for short yardage, given that it didn't work as well last year? Those are things they have to decide. But, yeah, it still is an option to them if they want to run it, it sounds like.
Sheil, gut feeling. The tush push was less effective because, A, offensive linemen were injured and less effective, or B, defenses made adjustments with how they stacked the front.
I think offensive linemen were injured.
I agree.
I mean, the defense has tried different things. I didn't see like that special thing where all of a sudden they say, oh, you do this and now you can stop it. I mean, they tried stuff, but there wasn't that one thing. I think it came down to interior offensive line. Those guys weren't right the entire season.
That's what I thought. All right, Sheil, let's hop over to the Phils quickly here. So a lot of people think that Dombrowski was excuse-making in his interview with us. I think he was being a salesperson to an extent. I don't think it's as an excuse-making as many people think, but okay. The Phillies offseason. I gave him a C. James gave him an F. I thought that was way too harsh. I'm like, dude, I saw an offseason where the Eagles didn't offer Reggie White a contract. Like, that's an F. I saw an offseason where the Sixers traded Charles Barkley for Tim Perry, Andrew Lang, and Jeff Hornacek. That's an F.
Yeah, you're trying to win a championship. It's all about perspective.
Okay. Sheil, how do you assess the Phillies offseason? What Dombrowski did and did not do?
Yeah, I probably am more at like a C- like you than an F, just because the moves that were out there to be made, even the Bichette move, I could have looked at that and been like, that's not a smart move to sign him to whatever it was, 1 year, $47 million when he can leave after the year, the type of deal that the Mets agreed to with him. So I look at stuff like that, and they're just kind of in this spot where at some point in the next 1 to 3 years, these older players are going to fall off a cliff, and we're going to be like, uh-oh, here's a bad stretch of Phillies baseball is coming. But I don't know that that's going to be this year. I mean, I like the staff. I like the bullpen. They won 96 games last year. So there were a lot of ups and downs with Dombrowski. Don't get me wrong. I didn't love what he did by any stretch. I'm still puzzled by the whole Bryce Harper thing. But I think I look at it, and I think it was a below-average, disappointing offseason. But, no, I would not be as low as an F.
Sheil, I don't know. I don't remember. I don't think I had a chance to talk to you about the Chris Cooper for Jeff Stoutland substitution. What's your general consensus on that? How do you feel stepping away now that it's been a couple weeks, moving forward? How positive do you feel about Chris Cooper?
I mean, the Stoutland thing to me felt like it was a personal issue between him and Nick Sirianni. Just reading all the reporting, and you read that they wanted him to come back as the offensive line coach, but not the run game coordinator. And he got stripped of run game coordinator duties last season. And just from my time covering the team, knowing how Jeffrey Lurie feels about Jeff Stoutland, I just looked at that and I was really, really surprised. Now, I know it's a schematic change. Chris Cooper was let go by the Minnesota Vikings. They did not renew his contract, and that's a team with a smart offensive coach that's trying to win games this year. And you look at all their run game statistics over the last 4 years and just pass protection, it was not a good unit. It was an underachieving unit. So, I need to believe it when I see it, that he's going to be some kind of upgrade, or not even an upgrade, just be good enough to get the most out of this offensive line group.
So is this a mistake? Was this mishandled?
Well, I mean, to some degree, I think if you ask them what their ideal scenario was at the beginning of this, they would not have said Jeff Stoutland's not going to be the offensive line coach after we reshape our offensive staff. So whatever happened between all those things, I think it was not how they wanted it to turn out. Now, Sean.
So do you hold it against Nick Sirianni if the offensive line takes a step back this year?
That's a good question. I mean, it depends the circumstances. Are guys healthy? Are they underperforming?
Sure.
Or is it? Or am I coming on with you guys every week saying there was a missed assignment here, there was a missed assignment there? If it's an execution issue, then yes, I do think that would be fair to say, man, this could have looked a lot different. But again, it really depends on the circumstances there.
Sure.
Hey, Sheil, nice work, bud. We'll talk to you next week as we get closer to free agency. Thanks, pal.
Thank you,
guys,
Sheil.
take care.
All right, there he is, Sheil Kapadia.